This time, I'd like to stand with us and say the pledge. Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, this time we'll do a roll call.
Mr. Artis?
Here.
Mrs. Booms?
Here.
Mrs. Helsel?
Here.
Mr. Hose?
Here.
Mr. Kunkel? Mr. McGinnis? Mr. Redmond?
All right, at this time we'll approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded. Any discussions? Nope. All those in favor?
Yes. Yes.
Those opposed? Carries. Comments from the public?
So probably wait a minute for online.
Okay. Okay. Well, there'll be time later for those also. Okay, we'll review the board committee items.
Okay. So we're going to start at the top with curriculum, and we have a few action items that we are going to approve tonight because of a timeliness factor that we need to do. I will tell you that we had kindergarten roundup last week. We had a great turnout. Parents were very excited. Kids came in, and of course it wasn't our full kindergarten roundup, but it did allow kids to come in and get a little bit of an experience. So we're very excited about having that happen. Tonight, we've got a couple of pieces that we're going to do. We have a presentation that I'm going to have Megan Utek and Tyler Hamilton do about our Lake City Elementary virtual program. And then we're going to spend some time reviewing, just going through our return to school, our return to learn school plan. This is going to be really for parent and community information. This is not the MDE one. That one has a little more technical work that we're going to be doing, and that one we'll be approving on Wednesday night. But we will be approving this one tonight so that we can get this information out to our parents. So we will walk through this in a few minutes. Okay, so I think what we'll do is I think we're going to start with the virtual school presentation first. So I'm going to have Tyler and Megan Utek come up and give us an overall explanation and share some great things that have been happening at the elementary.
All right, so welcome, good to see everyone. So when we started this journey on the virtual learning path, we kind of looked at different options for our students, for our parents and everything else, because we know in the spring when we had 3 days to kind of put this together and get something out, it wasn't what was best for long-term stability for these, but kind of the packet world that we were in. And so we hired Megan last year, and she has kind of looked at what the best type of virtual schooling would be for both students and for parents. And she has created this system for us, so that way, if you have a student that is in Lake City Elementary, you're not dealing with a purchased program like some other school districts are doing. We are in-house creating our lessons. The touch points are going to be with the teachers here at Lake City. So as she'll show you in her presentation, and I'm trying not to take anything from her presentation, but when the student logs in to get their lessons, it's a Lake City teacher that's there teaching these students. And so we felt that the best way to keep it consistent across the board, so that way they're getting the same curriculum at home that they would be getting in the classroom, in case if there's some shifting and that quick shift over to virtual, if we do have another shutdown, it will be seamless. And I think that you can talk to some elementary staff that have worked with Megan and us the last few weeks to get this going. They're working very, very hard, and Megan's doing a great job leading, in making this possible for our students. So it's a pretty cool thing. So I'll let you take over, and I will follow the
All of you have this packet of someone to put on the screen. I'm going to be running through this page by page and diving into what it looks like and why it's pieced together in the fashion that it is. When we were thinking about our K-5 virtual school option, it's made up of many different components, and you can see the main ones here. But I want to show you a document that I've also been working on of all different virtual learning components that I have thought about and other admin and teachers have thought about. And we kind of color-coded them to make sure we have all the different pieces to make this virtual school go successful for students, parents, guardians, and teachers. So this is a living document, so as we think of more issues or training or areas we need to cover or double check on, we add it to this list. We try to decide who's going to be responsible and if it's going to be a complete or when it's going to be complete. So this is an ongoing list of different components that we want to make sure we hit to make sure we have all our bases covered for this to run smoothly and for everyone to be successful. So this is one piece that I've been working on. But when you go to your packet, the first page is our virtual teacher. At the top are the responsibilities listed for the virtual teachers that will be identified to run these online classrooms. The virtual teacher slots for the names are empty right now. They are in, Mr. Hamilton's in progress right now, identifying those teachers based on the needs. And I believe you also have a chart that you can see that there are quite a few students per grade level that are choosing the virtual option, which is at top, versus children that are choosing versus families that are choosing virtual at the bottom. So we're thinking that we're probably going to have a virtual teacher, at least one per grade level. The next page that's in your packet is the learning management system that we're going to use to house all the lessons and the meetings that can happen between teachers and students. It's called Google Classroom. We're a Google Apps for Education school already, so this is an app that all the kids and teachers have access to already, and it's completely free. So Classroom will be used to streamline or post assignments, boost collaboration between students and teachers, and foster communication for any questions or comments that the student might have to the teacher. On the left-hand side, you can see the 3 different user components, and on the right, what they can do inside of Classroom. So there are a lot of different features available for all 3 parties involved for the virtual classroom. Google Classroom is really neat because it works in real time, and I can show you an example here. So when I post something, if my daughter had a computer right next to me, it would instantly pop up on her screen. She wouldn't have to refresh or go find it somewhere else. It would come up in real time. When I get to the virtual lessons, that works the same way. So if my daughter was working in a lesson, and if I see her click and drag, if she's clicking and dragging something, as a teacher, I can see it in real time as she's moving those features, which is pretty neat. It also allows teachers to post videos, whether they're recorded or live. So Google Meet is another app that syncs with Google Classroom, very much like Zoom, and they are updating their system as well. And it's a great feature that's built into Google Classroom for those live or recorded lessons by our Lake City teachers. I'll show you a quick example on what a Google Classroom looks like. So this is just an example. So I'm the teacher, I'm in 5th grade, but this is logged in as a student. So when they first log in, they get to the screen, and this is for any important announcements that the teacher might have. They can post just text, or they can post videos of themselves if they would like. And students can add comments directly to the teacher, and the teacher can reply back right here. Teachers can also post the Google Meet link to have live recordings or live sessions with the students right here. But the classwork is where all the documents or the lessons live. All the teachers K-5 have thought about families and trying to make this common across grade levels. So they're always going to be organized by week, and then within that week are going to be labeled the content and the day of the week. So whether you have a child in 1st grade and a child in 4th grade, their Google Classroom is going to be set up the same way. So that'll hopefully make it comfortable for families to navigate between different grade levels. So the students can click on their lessons, which I'll go through here in a minute. But this list will build, so kind of like Facebook, how it builds like a stream, right? It will build week on top of week as we get into the school year. It brings us into our virtual lessons, which is the next page. You can see it's set up the same way with the users on the left-hand side and what each user can do inside. Google Slides is a Google app that teachers are using to create interactive lessons for the students. This app allows teachers to insert videos of themselves, other videos that they might find useful or helpful to the students, and interactive pieces that the students will actually do typing, dragging and dropping, or maybe even inserting a picture or a video of themselves to explain their learning. The teachers have been working very hard on this already. I'm very proud of our elementary staff. Our goal is to try to get a few weeks built up as a bank for virtual teachers to use before the school year even starts. And with this being a new learning curve for them, they are doing phenomenal at it. I actually have a couple examples I'm going to show you so you can see what an example looks like. But all the slides, like we said, are going to be interactive, so students aren't just watching videos after videos after videos. They actually have to do some work in there. And that'll allow us to have those formative assessments and provide feedback to the students. And like I said earlier, those can all be done in real time. So if the student's working on a language arts lesson, a teacher can see them doing it right then on the screen, which is pretty neat. So I will show you first. This is a kindergarten example of a lesson. So this is Google Slides. This is what it looks like. It's very much like PowerPoint, if you've ever used that before. So kindergarten through 5th grade, we also thought of a system that would help families and students know, well, what am I supposed to do on this page specifically? So we came up with a picture of an eye, and that lets students and families know that they just need to read, watch, or just view what's on that page. And a pencil means you actually have to interact and do something on this page. So on the left-hand side, it's like a stack of papers, and you go through one page at a time. So this example is by Mrs. Webb, has been working on this lesson for kindergarten. So the coaches have also helped guide the components to each lesson too. I want to, before I show you any more of this, I want to let you know we are using the curriculum that the in-school teachers are using, and we are going to have them be in sync week by week. So whatever's happening in the classroom on week 2 is going to be the same thing that's happening in the virtual classroom week 2 as well. So these are videos that the kids can click on, so they know they have to watch this piece. Here, this one has a pencil, and there are directions on here where the student has to click and drag the 2 rhyming words or pictures into the correct spot. And the student would just simply click, drag, and drop. So here is one of our own Lake City teachers.
Hi friends, let's do our letters and sounds. I, fit, is, N, nest. J, jump, jaguar.
So we really like the fact that all the teachers have jumped on board with this, feeling comfortable in front of a video and putting themselves out there. And they've done a phenomenal job. My son Wesley is going into 1st grade, and I had him try out one of these lessons just to kind of practice a little bit. And the wait time that the teachers use in the classroom, the same experience online here, because my son will answer, and then the teacher goes, good job. And in his mind, he's like, oh, she can see me, this is real, this is happening. So it's really neat to see that experience, through his eyes with these virtual lessons. So you can kind of see the pattern as we go. Here's another drag and drop, where you have to click and drag, and they have to circle the letter B over and over. A couple more videos. This is another kindergarten teacher demonstrating. Quickly click through so you can see the different pieces. You can see they cover fluency and vocabulary and all the different pieces what a good lesson in the classroom looks like as well. So the main features that students will have to do to start with are going to be drag and drop, typing of some sort, and then we are going to teach them how to insert a picture, which they can do right on their device, and it pops it right in there for them. It's pretty neat. And then we're going to eventually build on that and make our virtual lessons more interactive, include videos of the students talking, but we need to build up to that. Here's an example of a 3rd grade math lesson, so the little higher grade I'd like you to see. Again, you'll notice the same icons that we used. Students have to type inside those boxes. Here's a video of one of our 3rd grade teachers, Mrs. Pedler, showing how to do the number talk. And then the videos, this is just a viewing slide, and then where they have to insert their answers. And then on this one is where they're actually going to take the picture and insert their work paper here. So students aren't just doing everything on the computer. They will have paper, depending on what the lesson is, and they'll then take a picture and put it and post it so they can see the handwriting from one another too. Okay. So those are the examples. Now, with all this, we know there's going to be a huge learning curve. So we started to create a parent university. This is a website that I built and started to piece together. I'll show you in a second. Where parents can visit to get resources, watch tutorial videos on how to do all these pieces, and to even practice lessons with their students before school even starts, so they can get familiar with the clicking and the typing and how do I get inside that text box. You can see it set up with the users on the left side and what they can do on the right side. But here's what the website looks like currently. It's still in the process. There's still a couple pieces that I need to add in there, but it's very close to being done. So there's a message here from Mr. Hamilton explaining how this website works. And then the different components that are in this packet here are kind of covered on here as well. There is a spot for parents to learn about the different devices that they may be using, or if there's any issues with the school-issued devices, or they need to contact help desk, maybe something broke on there, or something's not working the right way, we'll have contact information right there where they can easily access and get those issues covered. There are tutorial videos on how to use a Chromebook and the importance of signing into the right spots to make the lessons go smoothly. Below are a couple practice lessons for kids and parents to actually click on, open, and go through some interactive slides together so they can get familiar with the setup and the navigation of the keyboard. There's a tab here for Google Classroom. So this shows them how to complete a lesson as a student. So there's a tutorial video, a parent's guide to Google Classroom that goes over how to get it, what is it, what are all the components of it that I need to know from a parent's perspective. Another document that is like a cheat sheet in a way, where it has screenshots and step-by-step information on how to navigate through it, common mistakes videos and how to fix them. And then we are working on additional tutorials for completing lessons, Google Slides, Google Meet eventually will be in there, so that's another platform they're going to need. So you can see how this website is going to allow for just a one-stop place for families to go to get all the resources they need to be successful. So here's a student enrichment page, which again will grow. This isn't just a one, it's uploaded and then it's done. This will continue to grow and be updated throughout the weeks of the year. We'll have the virtual teachers on here as well. Once we have them identified, it's blank right now, but all their contact information will be there. And then frequently asked questions for devices in Google Classroom, where they can click on it, they can make it bigger, and then this will be a living document where when we see those questions pop up through help desk or from the school, we'll add them on here and answer them for them. The next piece in your packet is a student schedule for the elementary, and this is a day view. So on the left side, you can see how the day starts and when it ends. And then on the right side, we dove into those sections and kind of explained what's the student going to be doing during those blocks of time. So you can see the reading block, that second block there, from 8:30 to 10. You can see that there might be up to 15-minute live or recorded mini lesson, around 30 minutes of interactive lessons directed by the teacher. I do want to point out it's an hour and a half. And as you look at these blocks, you might say, oh, do the kids need to sit in front of a screen for an hour and a half, and then an hour and a half, and then an hour and a half? No, not necessarily. We want to try to keep kids around that 2.5 to 3 hour mark of instruction a day. We don't want children just sitting in front of a screen from 8 a.m. till 3:30 p.m. That's far too long and not appropriate for this age group. So you can see it in small writing, small font there. Most likely it will not take the whole 1.5 hour window to complete that. They do, though, want to try to complete that lesson within that time frame, because that goes back to the point where I said, if I know all my students are working on language arts, and I'm the language arts teacher, I know they're working on it from 8:30 to 10. After I do my live lesson, I can jump in and see what Jordan and Wesley are doing in their lesson in real time. I can leave comments on the side of the lesson that will pop up instantly on their computer. So if both teacher and student are working within that time frame together, we get a lot more, we got a lot better feedback from the teachers to the students. So please just note that they're not going to be sitting in front of the screen that whole entire time. It's just however long it may take them to complete that lesson for that day. You'll see in the bottom left-hand corner for special education, special services will be provided by the special education teachers. Appropriate accommodations will be provided through the homeroom teacher's Google Classroom. So the special education teacher can also be a teacher inside the same classroom. But whatever they post, whatever accommodations they post for those lessons, only that student and that teacher can see it. So Google Classroom allows you to handpick individual students and post assignments just for them to see, and the rest of the class cannot see it. This is an example of the middle school and high school day view, very similar to elementary, where it breaks down in the boxes what the students would be doing during those time frames. Then, we looked at the student view, so what will the teachers be doing in those time blocks? So the next one, where it says teacher schedule at the top, you have that same day view on the left-hand side, but then a breakdown on the right-hand side of what the teachers will be working on and doing in those blocks of time.
Now, this would be Megan, the virtual teacher
Yes.
schedule. It's not gonna be that you're teaching your class and you're trying to virtually do this too, right?
So the biggest thing is with this,
Right.
with our breakdown, like that was kind of our fear by taking this on ourselves and not hiring a company to do our virtual.
Yeah.
Was we weren't gonna have the numbers to be able to solidify one person in each grade level. But our numbers are plenty high enough to have a virtual teacher at each level. So that way they can focus on the virtual piece here and we're not having people doing both.
Right.
Now we go into stage 3 and we are in shutdown mode. Everyone's gonna be a virtual teacher now. And so that will be at least a team captain on each team, each grade level that's been doing this to kind of help facilitate and work through that stuff. So it's set up pretty nice for us.
Yep, and with that, all the teachers are on board right now,
Yes.
trying to create these lessons, so they're kind of used to this routine right now, but we'll have those team captains per grade level to help just foster that, what if we happen to shut down, and then everyone will pick it back up and do it. All the in-person teachers will also have a Google Classroom, and they'll be teaching their students a few times a week, not every day, but a few times a week, how to use Google Classroom, how to do these virtual lessons every now and again, so the in-class students get familiar with it too, just in case there's a shutdown. They'll feel comfortable and have that smooth transition where they know the platform, they know what lessons look like and how to manipulate the page. Hopefully that'll create for that nice transition.
And so to keep that buffer there, if I take first grade, for example, and if one of the teachers is the virtual teacher, they'll be updating their virtual classroom, their Google Classroom for their virtual students, but they'll also be updating the other 3 teachers' virtual classroom. So if we do go into a shutdown and students have to transition, their teacher will still be responsible for them and they'll have those lessons built up so that we can keep rolling and it's just a smooth, nice and easy transition.
Can you talk a little bit about how Rachel, our math coach, and Tara, our reading coach, are working, like how the 3 of you are working together with all of this?
So with our math and reading coaches, right, like we've spent so much time the last 2 years to creating our roadmaps and creating our curriculum to get it to the level that we want in pretty concise and the big picture items that the teachers are following and getting to the students. With that, we want to hold our virtual lessons up to that same standard. And so Megan has like a list of competencies that she's going through that teachers are going to have to know to be able to teach virtually. So we're teaching that to all of the teachers in case of a shutdown and everything else. But then between Tara, Rachel, and Megan, Tara and Rachel will go into the virtual lessons, make sure that they're nailing the major standards there. And then Megan's making sure the functionality and the videos, everything else. And so really, like all of us coming together and making sure that everything is working here. They're still checking lessons, still making sure that our curriculum's where we want it to be on the virtual end as well as in person. But then Megan's making sure the functionality and the everything is working for the students so they don't get in and something they're supposed to drag doesn't drag and stuff like that. So.
And we've also provided a handful of trainings already to the staff on Google Classroom and Google Slides. And then the next page in your packet after the schedules are additional trainings that still need to take place, not only for the virtual students and families through the Parent University, but also in-school students, teachers, virtual, because we want to build on it and evolve it and make it become even greater as we go from month to month throughout the school year if it goes that long. So there's additional training that definitely needs to happen, and that's where I would step in and help facilitate that. That's what I was just talking about. So there have been past trainings that you can see that teachers have already been doing through the summer. And we've had amazing turnout. These teachers are all about doing what's right for the students, and they are 100% dedicated to making this the best experience that they can. And then future trainings that I would recommend that need to happen for in-school and virtual students and the parents and guardians that Parent University will be added to in the future. You also see in your packet there is a week schedule as well, so you can see not just the day view, but you have the whole entire week for elementary, Monday through Friday, so you can see when they get specials, when the different core subjects would come into play for the different days of the week.
And what we didn't kind of talk about with Parent University is, you know, we have all this stuff, but it would be nice once stuff opens up and we're able to actually have sessions where parents are coming in and learning from Megan face-to-face there, like the different things with the different aspects of Google Classroom, so that way they're comfortable helping their student. And you know, we can learn from videos and everything, but there's nothing like that real in-person learning that we hope that we can get to that point early in the year to help it be as smooth as possible for our parents.
Yep, and one thing that Tyler talked about was the lessons that teachers are working on. So I'm keeping a running record right now of what teachers or what grade levels and content, what lessons are being completed, which ones maybe have some technology, maybe the video wasn't uploaded correctly or their click and drag isn't in the right spot. So I go through and double check all the lessons along with Rachel and Tara for content to make sure it makes sense, it fits with the curriculum that the in-school students and teachers are using. But then we go through and double check all the lessons to make sure that there aren't any of those technical issues that may arise in the future with these virtual lessons. So we're doing our best to be over-prepared to make sure we eliminate any stress or headaches in the future. So this is another document that I'm continuously coming back to and checking the lessons and just making sure everything's in the right place. But the ongoing training was the last piece in your packet, and you can see the teacher, student, and parent guardian components of that. Any questions? That was a lot.
The question I have is, do you have any projections on the results of all of this, positive or negative? And I know this is, you're looking into down the road, you don't have an idea, but what is your gut feeling of the results of this?
So I think the biggest thing that we have going for us is we are creating this in-house in ourselves, and we're following the curriculum that they'd be getting face-to-face. And so the positive thing is the education that they'd be getting face-to-face, we're reciprocating that into a virtual setting. We don't have two separate, third grade classrooms or someplace in Detroit that houses teachers to teach kids virtually. And so that way, if parents do make that transition back and forth, it's a smooth transition. And then we know what is being covered in these classes 100%. I also like that it is a Lake City teacher that they can get a hold of. You're not calling down to a different company. You call our school, you get a teacher that you know that you see daily face to face on these lessons, and it can just build that community, right? Because a person that has Trojan pride and is here working, I feel like is going to give our students the best education possible. And we have teachers that are really getting it done right now. So on a positive aspect, I think that it's going to be great to have the students getting the content that we're already teaching them. Negatives right now, I think it's just this. That's why Megan has went through this thoroughly. I think that there's going to be technical needs that we're going to have to teach parents and students and everything else. That's why that's going to kind of be part of our day in face-to-face learning so that the students can learn the skills. And then that's why I said we hopefully can get these parent university sessions scheduled so that way parents can get the education as well on how to be successful here.
And to add on to that, with us creating it ourselves and having our own features and using Google Apps for Education, it allows for so many opportunities for students to collaborate with other Lake City students virtually. So if by chance you go to other programs, they might not necessarily connect with students that would really actually be in their class. So there are a lot of very neat websites and apps that the teachers will learn how to use and then eventually teach the students how to use so they can interact and do projects together, but virtually apart. So I'm really excited for that component of them, to see how students can work together still from a distance.
What if a virtual teacher is absent? Who fills in for that teacher?
So I think that it's just like a normal teacher being gone, except for one thing that I'm trying to create with our virtual teachers is they'll have their rooms to go do their virtual lessons and everything, but I want them to be in a collaborative space. And so if one teacher is getting questions from a parent, we're sharing that in this collaborative space because other teachers are probably going to get that question as well. So if a virtual teacher is absent, it might be an asynchronous day where the lessons are recorded and they're going out to the students, or we might have to have a virtual teacher, if it is a live lesson, be checking in and kind of overlooking that aspect. But I don't think that it will be. I don't think that will be an issue with teachers being absent, unless it's all 7 of them. I think that we have people in place to fill those holes with Tara, Rachel, Megan, myself, if we need to get in there to answer questions.
And our goal is to always be ahead of the game. So we want to have a nice bank that we're always prepared for. So if the teacher happens to be sick for a day or two, their lessons are already created, probably recorded, or if there needs to be a live session, then someone can jump in and do those live sessions. So the lessons should already be created and ready to go.
Nice.
Anything else? All right.
Thank you, Megan.
Thank you.
Tyler, outstanding.
Yes.
I guess I have one question for the Chromebooks is,
Yes.
when are we anticipating getting those to the students that are doing virtual?
It won't
have
be
a plan?
until school starts.
So like they'd have to come in and like register or something? And
So
pick them up?
we're in the process right now of working through the logistics, because we kind of want, as a district, have a central hub where, so it's not Megan over at the elementary or myself over at the elementary and someone over here, that's kind of facilitating it. It will be one person that's kind of has all the hotspots or whatever and all the Chromebooks to get to students. And then it was kind of streamlined a little bit. So Tim and I talked about it today. We're working on who that person will be, how we'll do the check-in, check-out, breakage, all of that stuff. But yeah, it'll be closer to the first week of school.
And we'll have like insurance and all that stuff, right? So then if there's issues with.
There will be issues. There will be breakage.
I know there are.
Yeah.
So I just didn't know if we had a plan of how we're gonna handle that. Like, don't we have insurance that
Yeah.
will cover a lot of that?
Yes.
Because that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
For sure. Appreciate your time.
Great job. Thank you, guys.
Very nice.
I'm pretty impressed.
Me too.
Look, I can tell you guys put a lot of effort into it.
Thank you,
The
Megan.
elementary
Thank
staff, if you see them, praise them, because they've been getting after it, and it's been amazing to see them coming in the month of July, 2 days a week at least, to really dig in and get this going, because it's going to be what's best for our students. So, yeah, thank you.
So going on, I want you to pull the sheet that has the red with the lines up. We handed this out, and Tim, feel free to hop in. It's this one right here. With the number of virtual students and in-person students. So you can see we've spent a lot of time developing our virtual school. And now Tim's going to share just some of this data, why this is key for the elementary. And I'll let you just kind of slide in a little bit to the middle and high school a little bit, and then we can transition into the learning plan.
Awesome. Timeline-wise, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Timeline-wise, we've been waiting really until this week. A lot of decisions will come about this week and next, because we've been waiting to really see of our 1,200 students, what percentage really is desiring virtual to start, and what percentage wants to come here, right? Because we know that with 158 virtual elementary kids, right, which is what you see at the top there when you add the pre-K5, that's 160 of our students that are choosing at the K5 grades, right? And if you look at the numbers, so 5th grade's 26 and so on, that will qualify at least a grade level teacher at each of those, right? So those are the decisions this week that are being made because we finally know we have enough of those students. Well, when we take a 5th grade teacher and a 4th grade teacher out of the mix, do we have enough teachers left to distance properly in classrooms, right? So And those same decisions really are the decisions we're making, I mean, as a district, but in the secondary world as well. We currently have 79 middle school students that will be choosing virtual to begin. We have 105 high school students, and the total is 342. With that, we still have about 60 students that we have not heard from, okay? So, but about 35% of our students are choosing a virtual option. I want to put a little bit of, we are going to do licensing at the secondary level. We are working toward a place where all of our teachers will have their courses on Schoology, which is our learning management system. Google Classroom is a learning management system that teachers utilize. The version we use is called Schoology, okay? And it's very similar to that. But our goal will be over the next year or two to have our teachers work toward that. Okay, that's the expectation this year. Just in terms of scope, we are going to be paying $550 per secondary student for licensing. So about $101,000 is what our licensing will be for secondary. The program we would go with at the K-5 level, it would cost us about $1,000 per semester for an elementary student. Okay, so that's $2,000 per elementary kid. So when I multiply 158 times $2,000, that's substantial. Okay, and I share that because the elementary teachers and leadership, when they saw that, they thought, you know, let's create this, because if we go remote, which the chances of that happening are quite possible, they will want to have that control anyway, right? And they'll want to jump back in as a team and develop lessons. So that made the most sense, not just because of money savings, but because they wanted that educational control for our kids. So it's admirable, inspiring work that they're doing, and it's going to help us, right? So that's just another layer that I think is important for you guys to know. We are still working toward this. What we've told parents, we asked for a decision by by the middle of last week, I believe, beginning of last week. We then called the remainder, the balance of the parents, which were about 500 homes that we still needed to hear from. And then throughout last week got these numbers, okay? So that's why the timeline is as it is. Our goal, like I mentioned, is to tomorrow figure out who our online teachers need to be, or our facilitators in the secondary world, who those need to be, and then who's left in the classrooms, right? And then what do our master schedules look like right size? Because when I pull out 184 secondary kids out of these classrooms, they might be set for distancing because they might be around 14 to 18, right? So that's really what we're looking at. We know that people want to plan, and we have wanted to plan too, let me tell you. And we're finally to a place where we're able to make these decisions, which is a good thing. So a lot of those decisions will be made this week. Our goal is to, on Friday, have a new master schedule. So we will know if we can still offer everything we want to in the high school, everything we want to in the middle school, when we have to share teachers, right? So anyway, we'll keep you posted on that, but it's important context to really know how many kids are we talking about. And this, the work that Megan and Tyler and their crew has been doing truly is remarkable. So we're extremely fortunate. Every time I listen to her talk, I think about how mad Cadillac must really be with us. And I don't really, that doesn't bother me at all, just for the record. So, all right. Walk through the return to school plan, Bob.
Yeah, let's
awesome.
kind of go through this. I will, just to start out, just as a reminder, this document is only a portion of what we're going to send through the state of Michigan, and we're going to approve that official document on Wednesday at the board meeting. This is really our addendum for parents in our community, because this is more of a working document. It doesn't have all the MDE, legalistic kinds of things that we have to put in place here. But this really gives, this is what our parents have wanted to know. What are we going to be doing? What's happening? And a lot of those details. And so if you open it up, there's a table of contents. I start out with a letter, and we go through the state of Michigan requirements and a number of pieces that are important to put in here. So with that, Tim, I will let you take over.
No, that's a great setup. we wanted a place for parents to go to get the answers that they really wanted, right? And this is in draft format, simply because there are a few additional pieces that we need to add that we weren't able to get in here today. And as you look at it, if there's questions that you are getting, which I know you are, and you think we need to add something, our goal really is to probably print these tomorrow afternoon in hopes that they will mail out Wednesday. So that's our target. But if you see something, do let us know what that might be. I won't walk through the specific bullets. I don't know that that's extremely necessary unless you really walk me through. I enjoy my quality time with you, but so the state of Michigan requirements, those are really in flux, right? Like we know what's required and highly recommended under stage 4 and stage 5. And we try to meet that to really be reflective of where we are. And I know that you have had different conversations with regard to personal protective equipment and what are we going to require and when, right? So this is a glimpse for parents. What will busing look like? We've had that question. We've talked about videos once we're ready, once these things are set by you, where Tyler will wait at a bus stop and put hand sanitizer on and jump aboard the bus and, just talk to kids about what the route is going to look like to really give parents and kids an idea of how long will they need to wear a face covering. It sounds like the whole day, but really, aside, we were talking today that if they need to wear them to and from, right, school, but once they're in school in their classroom, then they only wear them in crowded community common areas, right? And we really can mitigate those times. So a lot of the special teachers will come to their classrooms and they will base out of there. Now, Kerry Roosevelt may come to their class and take them outside, right? But at least they're doing those different pieces there. So in looking through this document, we hope that most of the parents' questions will be answered, and at least they'll have a good reference. I think PPE, we're set on busing. I know that we've talked a lot about that. Cleaning, I don't know what questions you might have. I know that we have a ridiculous schedule, just ridiculous in terms of its comprehensiveness and the way that we're going to go about that. We are ahead of the curve in terms of supplies. I'll just tell you that Carl and Joe Blazak and Kim, they've done a tremendous job making sure that we were the first to get to the vendors to predict that. So we have stuff on hand, which is awesome to go into the year with. Hygiene screening and positive cases, that's just really a glimpse right there. There's a pretty thorough screening and what to do with positive case piece that will come later on in this plan that we will spend some time on. And in terms of athletics, this is an interesting thing too, because it really, the Big Ten, I think, announced today, and some of the other Power 5 conferences announced that fall football will cancel, right? They'll probably still try to get a spring football season in because they can do that at the collegiate level, but it's interesting to watch what's going on with athletics. And as the AD for just 30 more seconds, Mark Yule, the executive director, put out a letter to whoever would read it on Friday, just talking about how we need to provide athletics to students because we're the safest place to do that, right? AAU and other companies and organizations have been providing sports opportunities all summer with really not many things in place. So for our kids to have the safest opportunity, it needs to be us to do that, right? We don't disagree with that. But extracurricular is extra, right? If we can't be safe curricularly, then that's important context to always for us to stay within. So we don't know. What's happened right now is the MHSAA has said they will make a decision on August 20th as to what will happen in terms of when we can begin competition. So they will set a date there that you can begin your first game on this date, right? In terms of football, they've talked about eliminating the non-conference games, why travel around the state for every school the first week and second. So playing a conference schedule might be something that happens if we're able to play at all, right? And I think that you guys have all kind of stayed on top of that. As soon as we hear anything, we will feed that to you so that you know. Today is the first day of 2 days for football practice. We are following precise guidelines for that. Wednesday is when volleyball begins. Cross begins this week and cheer as well. So that's what we have going on with that. Any specific questions about athletics or any of these elements here? Awesome. Technology, we just wanted some details. So one of the things that for in-person, for technology, is our middle and high school students will be assigned a device, okay? What we've done to really reduce breakage, when students travel with technology, you predict 3 to 5% breakage. Okay, that's normal. So a county will be busy with 3 to 5% screen replacements and so on this year, and he loves to do that sort of thing. But that's what we predict. Here, what we've been able to do is have a cart in each room. So I go to my first hour, I pull a Chromebook out of the cart, I use it, I plug it back in. I go to my second hour, and we have a surplus, okay, because we put the percentage that we would buy extra for breakage, we've invested in more Chromebooks, and we just leave them put, right, in classrooms. So teachers that are on prep specific hours, there's 28 to 30 Chromebooks in that teacher's hour not being utilized, right? And at any point around here, we have probably 60 to 100 between the middle and high school that are like that. So if we need a buffer, I share that because if we need a buffer for Tyler and the elementary to utilize because we go remote sooner than we thought, then that helps us there, right? So that's just extra information as well. What's going to happen this year, though, is similar to how we did it with our iPad initiative when we had it. Students will be assigned a Chromebook. So they will go to their advisory or academic intervention class to begin the day, which is where they will end the day. They'll get their Chromebook, they'll travel through the classes with it, and then plug it in their last hour, which will be the advisory or academic intervention. Okay, so that mitigates contact, plus gives kids more ownership to their device. Then, when it comes time to go remote, if that happens to us and we have a full closure, we're able to attach, we have Verizon hotspots and AT&T hotspots. And again, we have been most proactive just in making sure we have enough devices for our students. We even ordered 100 more on Friday because we got these numbers finally, and that took us to a place where we have a good cushion. But with that, what we're able to do is if a student needs a Chromebook and a hotspot, and it's a Verizon coverage in their area, we can connect that hotspot to their Chromebook, and other devices can't connect to it. Not that we're worried that our parents would do whatever, or kids, but that just ensures that that device gets what they need for learning, which is awesome, right? So we're looking at technology dialing down to that level, so we're able to dispatch those on the ready, which is a good thing. So that's a big change for this year, but we're excited about that. Let's see, in person, again, we're working to get enough devices for K-5 so that they have that we will be sharing if we do go virtual. Megan referenced a help desk a couple of times in her presentation. We will have the email address helpdesk@lakecitytrojans.org. That will be checked throughout the day. So if parents access that, we can help answer those needs and questions in an extremely timely manner, which is good. You know that we have a homeschool partnership. We've talked about that. We included that, those descriptions under technology, and then the Trojan Parent University as well. Just a tremendous assist that will be for parents who it's not their business to be good at technology, right? It's their business to be good at parenting, and we're excited to partner with them in that. Next, we have special services. So our special services department, those are kids on IEPs, 504s, any other health or behavioral related services. So we wanted to cover that specifically. We do have a letter that Tyler and Travis Hubbard and I and Kim are working on that we'll send out to parents, because we've had some phone calls just in the last couple of days of what about my kid and what about this? How will their needs be met if we have to go in one direction? So we spell out a lot of these pieces here. We will assure you that no student will go without support, especially our students that need us for any of these services. So we're excited to be able to offer that. We have good relationships with the intermediate school district and the ancillary services that they provide, and we're excited to partner with them to ensure that we're in good shape there. In terms of social emotional needs, we plug that in there as well for our counseling departments. We know that the social emotional learning, the SEL needs of our students coming in, whether they realize it or not, as students, they've undergone a traumatic incident, right? Like this pandemic really has been that in a lot of ways, and it's changed, and we have as well. Not to turn this into a counseling moment, but we recognize that kids at some point will need to talk through those pieces to recognize them so that we can help parents and students reconcile and continue to move and strengthen from those challenges. So we're excited to meet those needs. We've read up on different programs, and our counseling department really believes that we have what we need to do to provide that. Additional social work, right, would be awesome to be able to have, but we've talked about ways to try to bring in community members that have those strengths to help counsel kids, and we'll continue to push for that and work toward that. But this is a nice section that helps give some answers with regard to that. Any questions about technology or special services? Awesome. Instructional learning overview. I'm going to do a pretty broad explanation of this. We really did try to look at each of the aspects of in-person learnings, from transitions to hallways, to personal items, what will lunches look like, recess. So this part of the document is 4 pages for a reason, right? Just in terms of how it describes those different aspects. So I know that you will look through that. Is that cool? We'll just keep pushing. I'm pretty good at reading body language with or without masks, so I want to keep you here with me. In terms of the next few pages, those will look a lot familiar, very familiar. I'm on page 12 now. So virtual learning, remote learning, student. Those pages are from Megan's presentation and work that Jessica Vanderbook has done with us to really provide that. Okay, and this is what I want us to recognize, is that these schedules, this is K-5, what the remote learning, so remote in our diet or vernacular is going to be when we are all, it's a full closure, so we are remote from the school, all of us, okay? Virtual are students choosing that as a learning option, right? So this K-5 schedule that you have, that's for both virtual and when we all go remote, okay? When you flip the page here to page 14, that is just 6/12 remote. So that's if school shuts down, it's a full closure, and we are at home. This is what this program will look like. Okay, I share that delineation because we need, as a school district, comprehensive schedules that show the outside world that our kids are getting all the aspects of a comprehensive education, okay? Not that there's not flexibility offered within these blocks of time like Megan mentioned, but if you look at the elementary schedule, our kids are getting an hour and a half of ELA, an hour and a half of math, science, social studies, and some special subjects as well. When you look at this schedule for 6/12, this shows that we are giving an hour and a half for each of our class periods. So first hour would be Monday and Thursday. 4th through 6th would be Tuesday and Friday. Wednesday, there's an opportunity for teachers to capture some extra time with classes. I think of honors classes or AP or just regular ELA classes that want a little bit of extra time with their kids because they're really into the novel they're reading, right? So that's a time on Wednesday to capture that. We've talked about our ancillary services filling in like they do here. So title services at the elementary and then counseling services K-12 really would work with classroom teachers to say, hey, I know you have an ELA block today, 3rd grade teacher, but can I meet with Johnny on a Zoom? Are you guys in person, like live, or can we try to find a time right on so that we can meet all of those needs of the different caseloads that our counselors carry as well? So again, I don't want to belabor these pieces. Megan did an awesome job rolling through them. But I do want to give you a survey of this, and if you have specific questions, we can come back. Looking at page 16, enrollment registration. This is, we've had 300, like we mentioned, and 42 students that have chosen virtual as their option. When this mailing goes out on Wednesday, for those 342 students, we will include, there's a single application to move from in-person learning to virtual. So we will include that application right in these packets so that parents have that and they can send that back to us to know that there's not going to be a gap. We also will send more information. Tam, your question about what are the next steps now that I've chosen that will be laid out here as well so that they know timeline and we can answer those questions, right? Self-screener information, this is really consistent with what most schools are doing. We do require that a self-screen is done each day, right, by students and staff. There will be 2 ways to do it. One will be via paper. The questions that we will ask are on the right-hand column there. We will have that QR code on the left side. If you're not familiar with what those are, you can just scan it on your phone and it goes immediately to that site where you'll be able to fill out this form. Okay, that will populate into a spreadsheet for us just automatically, and it will stay recorded there, which is a beautiful thing. Our staff will be able to do that from their smartphones or however else they want. Parents at home will be able to do this in the car on the way to school or before kids leave home or wherever they keep their thermometer and extra things like that. I borrowed this graphic of a QR and put in big bold that I'm going to be replacing that with our own QR, so don't, unless you're curious, you don't need to click on that. And then the alternate submission on the bottom just talks about how there will be paper available as well. Looking at page 18 of 20, so we're wrapping it up here. These are our positive test procedures and protocols. We've had a lot of questions. How many kids getting sick or staff or contacts does it take really to shut the whole place down, right? Or what happens if I contracted and I meet with 50 kids the next day? What happens in all those situations? These are some guidelines to really help us understand, because the biggest understanding that I have is there's not a clear-cut formula. I would like one. I would like if one kid gets, comes down with the virus, then A happens and B happens and C happens. But what we found is there's just not one size fits all, and there's a lot of kids that are impacted and families impacted in these situations. So the health department, and I know that Kim has talked with you and will continue, they are going to stay very active in terms of that decision making. You as a board are going to be very active in that knowledge and when we would go to full closure, right? So in working through this from a parent perspective offers some information that they've had, right, about the virus itself, but it also talks through what will we do with students, right, in these situations. Complete with a flow chart that we took from the most recent health department communication that they've sent to us. So again, these are a decision-making flow chart that will help parents make the best decision for their child. And you can follow through there and see. On the last page, we have a calendar of events. So we will update that, let them know when September's board meeting is and some other important dates. And then moving forward, just our promise to continue to keep parents informed and to continue to do our best, and we appreciate their partnership. So there you go, 20 pages of magic.
Thank you, Tim. There's a lot of, and I'm going to say again, there has been a lot of behind the scenes work that we've been doing, looking at other districts and health department meetings and getting every piece of information we could to put this together to make it as comprehensive as we could. The instructional coaches have been working nonstop this summer along with Tim and Tyler. So this has been a full press effort to get this out. I feel very positive about this. I feel I'm anxious to get it out for our parents, so I know that they're like, okay, this is what's happening. So what questions or concerns do you have about what we've put together with this?
I have 2 questions. One is, you have this procedures and protocols. It doesn't say anything in here about the nurse that we are going to get.
Mm-hmm.
And is that something that we want to put in here? And then the other question, the second part of that question is that nurse, if we do get it, is it tied to the health department?
That nurse will be a health department nurse, that is correct. I'm not sure what their roles and responsibilities are going to be. That's why I didn't put it in. That would be something I would probably, we could, when Tim and Tyler send out their letters or whatever, it gets a little closer, we'll have a nurse that'll be on, we might not even start till partly into September. So when they come on board, then we'll send out what their role is and how they can support parents.
And I think that's a strong advocate for all this process, especially how they will be tied into the health department.
Right.
So, we're not just out there willy-nilly, we got a process.
Right.
And we got a process that's connected.
Right.
Okay. And then my second question is, my millennial daughter tells me I'm not in touch with my feelings, so I'm gonna share with you some feelings I have here.
Oh, no.
My feeling is.
Break.
My feeling is, Tim, the parents, and maybe Megan and Tyler can speak to this too, the parents are gonna be more informed, more exposed to the learning process of our students. Is that a fair assessment?
True.
And they're gonna have a bigger role in this process than they have had in the past. Is that a fair assessment?
I would say yes. One of the important things we want to communicate is that this year's learning, this school year's learning will look so much different than this past spring, so forget about it, right? And I share that because the spring was an emergency response. And we wanted to partner with them and have them not have to figure out a lot of new stuff while walking into a pandemic. This, we recognize that there are learning pieces that we need to happen, right? Your question to Megan and Tyler both about what is the success that we really feel. If my daughters and son log into what they have going on, they will not miss a learning beat, okay? Now, with that said, are we going to be able to round out their education in terms of enrichment, the different technology pieces, or PE and some of the games and the social pieces, right? Like those would be the pieces that we as parents have to work harder. But educationally, I'm good with what we are going to be able to provide. Now, with that, right, the biggest challenge nationally is connecting kids to that learning, right? That's the biggest challenge. So in terms of success, it really will be what percentage of our 348 students are tuning in regularly. And we have a good process for that too. I just want to share that if a student is not engaging online and they've chosen the virtual path, then we will have a counseling session that talks about, is this best for you, right? If that doesn't work, they'll come into a classroom with a teacher and do their work in the classroom for the day online, but we'll coach them as to what that needs to look like and then release them back into their online world, right? And if that doesn't work, then we will tell them they need to return or seek a different option. So we have some pretty good pathways laid out. But for me, that'll be the biggest challenge, is our attendance or connectivity.
That's the most I'm worried about too.
But it also feels like to me that, I'm not gonna be watching Good Morning America and see parents going, wow, I just don't know what to do. I'm working at home. I got all my kids at home. They send me all this stuff to teach. Nobody supported me. It feels like to me, we got a pretty good support process going here for our parents.
We do.
And some light preservers to throw them in this process, especially for the virtual kids.
For sure.
Is that a fair assessment?
Of course, yes.
Yes.
Very much.
Great, thank you. Well done.
Excuse me, a thought I had. I just wondered about kids that do, my kid's Hope kid last year had a cough for a couple weeks. Didn't seem to be sick, but he had a cough. So, and that leads me to thinking that there's elementary kids that's got a snotty nose every day for what? So we send them kids home because they can't be in the school. Do we have a plan to adapt them immediately to virtual?
We do.
So they don't?
Yeah, we do.
And I think keeping it in-house is gonna make that a smoother transition for them, where they can be at the same spot they are in the classroom and then and then that flexibility back and forth will be easier. The health department's guidelines will help us form who goes, who stays, everything like that. But I'm with you too. I'm thinking about all the students that come down on a regular basis, that even some kindergartners are teething, right? Like my daughters are teething, oh, they're just gonna tooth, okay, it's something like there's those things that we're going to have to work through and figure out what we need to be providing them the best education possible as well. And I think that this method sets us up for success there.
But I'm thinking that's gonna happen every day, every single day. Some kid's gonna come to school with a cough, or he's gonna sneeze as he's walking in the door.
Yeah. And I think
we wouldn't have thought nothing of it before, and kids have runny noses for weeks.
Right. I think the scope of these guidelines, right, for cough, it's a new uncontrolled cough that causes difficulty breathing, which is a little different than a regular allergy. I think we'll really narrow in on, okay, these are the group that we don't feel comfortable making the call on. So risk-wise, this is where we're going to live, and these kids are okay. I think we'll find that spot.
So an individual, so we're gonna make a judgment call on whether the person's cough is cooties or not cooties?
We have to follow the guidelines, whatever it says with the health department. This is what they give us that we have to follow, and then we'll have to quarantine those kids. So we'll have to separate them in the elementary. We already have 6 cots here with sheets, and we'll have to quarantine kids.
But just quarantine until the parent comes and gets them, correct? So it's
Right.
just a transitional room.
Yep.
I think what you're getting at, Tom, is there's gonna have to be some common sense, I think, in managing this and trying to figure out what kids are just having your typical
Right.
itchy allergy cough versus a COVID cough.
Right, and you're gonna look at the combination of things too. You're gonna look at the fever, the
I
cough.
can just see that being an area of some conflict,
It's going to be.
difference of
It's going to be.
opinion.
Right.
For sure.
And I think having the nurse eventually, once they're in-house like that, will add that extra layer of support to myself, not as a medical professional, making that judgment call. We'll have them in-house there, so.
Well, won't the parents play a part in this too? So they have some responsibility and liability in that case. If they're I'm good with it. I don't think it's a COVID issue. My school doesn't. I'm saying T can go back. If everyone's good, I'm going to take responsibility for that, right?
Right,
And
and
somewhat
they
parents
may
have to
make
be a
you
part of
get
it.
tested.
Right,
You may have to go
exactly.
get tested. As part of the protocols and procedures.
And
we
will the
have,
test be done here, or would you go to
No,
the health
they
department?
have to go to the health department
Right.
or the hospital, Cadillac, or wherever there's, unless
Materials.
the new nurse has a,
Right. That'd be nice if we
yeah, I have to see.
I don't know.
I think that testing is gonna become a default thing
Catch-all.
in order to reassure the
Public.
parents of the other kids in the
Yeah.
classroom that it's
Right.
just a cold, it's, nothing more, or it's allergies or whatever.
Right.
Is it still 48 hours roughly, or has that changed too? Because I can't keep track with the news, like what
The
is the
turnaround on
latest?
the test,
Yeah,
I don't,
because,
I have trouble as well.
Well, they're just coming out with a saliva test too, and they're gonna have that available in Cadillac, which will be much quicker. So they're not gonna have to do the deep nasal. There's
Okay.
2 different nasals, there's a saliva test. So there's different components. But it talks here in this flow chart, it talks about they can, based on their guide to symptoms, they may return to school if their fever at least 24 hours have passed with no fever without medication, sore throat is improved, cough, shortness of breath improvement, there's no diarrhea, vomiting. So we're gonna look at all of the lists. And these are all the things the health department, and if I have a question, we're gonna pick up and call the health department, but we need to know what to do. Because we're not medical. And if they say, we're gonna tell the parent, bring them into the health department, or take them down to the nurse, or whatever we need to do, we're gonna try to mitigate that so it's not the district call. We're gonna do the best we can.
And then, Tom, to go back to your point, I had a teacher reach out to me that's watching, so famous Gallup. The the in-person teachers are also going to be using the Google Classroom platform a few times a week, maybe to get the students used to it. So if there is that 6th student that's to transition, they're not starting from ground zero. And so that will help that transition.
I think that's gonna be important.
Yep.
Just for
Absolutely.
the unknown.
Yep.
It's a very challenging time for all of you to be professional educators.
Tim, how is our plan for students moving back and forth or not being able to move back and forth between home and?
Sure.
So what does that look like?
No virus detected, just wanting to make different
No,
choices.
actually not. I mean, actually just whether they want to participate in person.
For sure. Awesome.
And then transition back out, or, I mean, we can't really have them going back and forth, but.
So we're looking at entry and exit windows, right? Because we thought people wanted to know, hey, do I really have to make the decision by the 3rd? And we communicated you don't. Give us your best idea so we can make sure we have enough hotspots and so we can move teachers. But if you change your mind, that's okay. We anticipate, 15%, maybe 25% in the first couple of weeks. Okay, so the school's doing this, I feel comfortable with that. Or things get crazy and I don't feel comfortable anymore. We're tied to this, and this is something that I hope people understand, but they may not. Pupil accounting wise, right? So when we account for our kids, we do those on specific days. The 4th Friday count, which is the 4th Friday, right? That window, we will be able to move students back and forth up until the last week of September. Because beginning in October, for us to count a virtual student as a full-time enrollment to receive state funding, we need to have 4 weeks of communication back and forth, okay? If we miss one of those weeks, then we get 0 funding for that student for the whole year, okay? So that's a big deal.
Yeah.
But with that said, we think that the first, most of September, people will make their decision back and forth, and then they will need to finish out the latter part of the 9 weeks wherever they have chosen. With that said though, if I am here and my kid is in school and I don't feel like it's safe any longer, and I still have 2 more weeks to the 9 weeks, we will allow students to go virtual at that point because it's safety, right, purpose. So those are some qualifiers. And then in our world, secondary wise, for second 9 weeks, I think we use a 4-week window again, because after, you're talking about the last 5 weeks of a marking period of a semester, so you need to get your credit and settle in where you are. So we will communicate that, right? Our offices will know, like we just landed on that this afternoon, honestly, because we looked at the pupil accounting, what are the qualifiers and what are the timelines. So anyway, there is a high degree, like I was talking to our office team, we need to be the best customer service organization around because we're in a pandemic and people are worried about safety, not really other things. So with that, we're going to do our best within the parameters that we have. So.
I think it's important to make sure they kind of know some of the why them 4 weeks are going to be put in place.
For sure.
I think that's important.
Got it.
And I'm more worried about the kids that stay home and do virtual and they're really not doing anything.
So
but it sounds like you have a good plan.
We do.
I'm really worried about that.
So we have a percentage of progress in our secondary world that they will need to meet. And if they don't, then they will need to have a meeting with us to develop an action plan. If that goes nowhere, then we will walk down a certain road. And if the parents and kid are failing to engage in education, which I don't think our Lake City parents and kids will do, but if that happens, then that will be a neglect and a truancy issue. So we're going to walk down very familiar roads in terms of that. Engage, we're offering you another option, and if it's truly...
And I'm not saying it would be intentional. I'm just thinking of parents are working 2 jobs and the kid's home all day alone and, who's really checking into that? That'll be, so.
And the nice thing about these blocks built in the schedule is if my first hour teacher notices that I'm not doing much or engaging, then they will reach out and say, I want to see you on a Wednesday for that extra time, or I want to see you during one of the afternoons if I'm an elementary kid, because that's what those afternoons are for, is that extra help, or hey, are you there? What's going on?
Where they're actually in like a Google Meet, where they're actually seeing each other and
Yes,
interacting?
yes, yes.
Okay,
For
good.
sure.
That's good.
Our goal in all of this is to put kids in front of teachers,
Mhm.
right? Like that's the number one difference maker in terms of student learning is the presence of a teacher, just their presence.
Right.
So that's why this connectivity it's crucial, right? Any success we have will be because of that added piece this year. So we think we made some good spaces for that.
Will the virtual kids' lessons be on our school? So parents can see whether they did it or not? And are they getting letter grades or credit?
Yes, so as of right now, they'll be getting letter grades,
Okay?
right? And it will be on PowerSchool.
Oh, good.
So we'll still be able to check and see what your child hasn't done or done.
great.
Or
For
what
sure. Yeah, for sure.
Google Classroom, to speak on that, Google Classroom, teachers and parents and guardians, they can sign up for email summaries sent to them daily or weekly.
Oh, good.
They'll tell them what assignments have been posted and then if they have any missing work. The only way a parent can get into a Google Classroom, like the actual lesson assignment, is if they have their student log into it and the student walk them through it. Otherwise, they can get an email sent to their personal email with a summary of what's going on in the class for privacy reasons.
Oh, that's good.
Awesome, what else?
Thank you.
Very welcome, thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Thanks for all your hard work.
Yep.
I know this has been.
It's been our pleasure.
I feel very confident you guys have it all under control, ready for school to start.
Thanks, Hannah. We really have vetted all the plans that are currently out there.
Yeah.
We couldn't wait for any more. We need to keep moving, but we like the blends that we've come up with for our kids. We think they not only fit, but they'll push, and it'll offer some good windows for learning, so.
So do I compared to other plans that I've
Thank you.
read about.
Right, thank you, Tim. I'm going to keep moving on. I knew we would spend the bulk of our time going through this, and then we're going to go ahead and move through. Under personnel, we have 2 resignation letters, one from Jeanette Swinehart and one from Lori Walsh. Lori is really retiring. She's gone with our voluntary severance plan, and she is retiring early. So we have lost 2 parapros at the elementary. Wednesday night, we're going to ask you to approve the administrative contracts for additional 2 years. So that's pretty much standard operating practice. So that will be on Wednesday night. And I had just written down staffing proposal, virtual and versus in person. And I think we've really gone through that enough that you understand we're going to have to move staff around. Number of elementary staff is going to be 1 or maybe 2 per grade level that's going to be virtual, and then I feel like they've really explained that pretty well. Are there any questions on the virtual, in-person staffing that we're going to be doing? Okay. I am with the staffing, we're looking at, and this is with custodial, this is with elementary, middle, and high school. You know, we're plugging people in where we're going to need to have them. But we're also looking at if we're going to need to bring any edu staff that we had laid off earlier back. Like, for example, who am I going to have in a quarantine room all day with quarantining kids? You know, so we're looking at who we have as players in the district, and maybe having to say, since I've lost 2 at the elementary, am I going to need somebody? So we're looking at those pieces. We have a number of latchkey kids for daycare. I am going to need staffing for that. So that wouldn't be any new positions. It would just be bringing back staff that we already have had in the past. So just to have that in the back of your head. And then we do also, I am going to have an action item tonight. I believe with the amount of work that we're doing in the elementary with virtual, instructional technology, that I am asking for a instruction or a virtual and technology instructional coach for our elementary. This will not be a new cost to the district. It is a new position. It would just be redeploying my staff. And I would like to post that immediately. And that would just be an internal posting for the elementary to get that position filled, because that is going to be a big position. And I think it's going to be critical and crucial that we do a really good job at this, because I mean, this is funding we don't want to lose, and really putting that whole package together. So that will be an action item tonight, Mr. Artis. Any questions on personnel?
Nothing that's on here, but how do we feel about custodial staff with all the extra cleaning?
So we have, Joe has already started to lay out the custodial. He's got a handout in here, plus a couple of handouts that he's put together. And he's working on the staffing. He wants to start with who he has right now, because we have about 4 edu staff, but they're not full-time, you know, they're like part-time. They don't want to be full-time, but he's looking at, we might have to bring somebody else on for additional support, because we're looking at 2.5 people day only in the buildings instead of 1, you know, like Charlie's at the elementary. We can't work because of the cleaning schedules. Now, we know we can pull some of our parapros in the elementary to clean if we need to, you know, hit tables. I mean, we know we're gonna have to do some of that. Middle and high school, you know, those kids can take a sanitizer and hit the top of their Chromebooks and stuff, but we're gonna be having to clean like on a 4-hour schedule during the school day, according to the guidelines. So he's got a rough draft together, but we're looking at, we may have to get another person on board. So just FYI.
What are these cleaning disinfectants and chemicals gonna do to our kids?
Those are only, we can only use EPA approved,
Okay.
that we have, and we don't have anything that is not approved by CDC, EPA. And in fact, Joe put the list in his report for you, so.
Okay, cool.
All right, any questions under personnel? Okay, student affairs, I think we've spent a lot of time on the return to learn. School starts August 31st, that is a half day. And we did get our funding back for our nurse, so we're very excited about that. So we're not sure when that's gonna start. They've gotta get the health department is paying with their funding for the work that's being done in our health and wellness center, because we have to put in some offices and a lab in there, and so they're paying for that out of that grant. So that room is just, instead of the big open space, we're putting walls in, doing some different things in there that have to happen. Any questions during that? Okay, under communications, you had just copies of my updates. We've been uploading everything on the Lake City School website. I will tell you that I did include a letter from the alumni, and they are, this year, I believe they canceled the alumni reunion, but really looking at some leadership from the school district to see if they would be willing to pick up more leadership role in the alumni reunions going forward. I know you and I have talked about what Manton does. There's some neat things that they do. So I would see something like that going forward. It's really, is the board want the school district to get moving in that direction or not. So that'll be, we don't have to make that decision today, but I just pass it on for food for thought. And thinking about the structure going forward, I know I've done some, you know, play work around looking at some different models and some things, and I think I've shared some with Craig and Tim, and like, okay, what can we do? So, and I know you and I have talked about what other school districts do, so I think there's some research that we need to do with that, but going forward, they're looking for some, really some strong support from the school district to help with that. Okay. Under operations, So for Wednesday night, we will have an action items to approve the bond project pay apps. We're already moving forward on some things. My windows are on delay right now because they don't have them done yet. So I don't know if we're gonna have the windows in before school starts. And
Where were those at again, the windows?
windows will be this building. So it'll be all these old windows are all gonna be replaced in this building. So all the windows will be redone. We do have the color scheme for the paint. I think we like the tan with the red line, if everybody's okay with that. I think that'll look really nice. We're not doing a square, we're just doing just across the top. I think I sent, there's a sample in your packets, guys, that you can see the paint samples. I think I got a vote from a number of you said, yeah, we like the red. So architects are trying to push brown, but I'm really over brown. I don't want to see anything brown again. I think I'm good, so anyway, but it's in there for your review, so go ahead and you can find that.
They're pushing brown?
Yeah, they want it brown. I'm like, yeah, I'm over brown.
Yeah.
So I wanted to just, I mentioned to you already that Joe had put together the cleaning, and we have that, he has that draft in here. I'm just looking for that. Just have a lot of stuff.
Is it in our packet?
Yeah, I'm not sure where it is. I don't see it now. But what it does is he talks about the chemicals that he uses, his staffing. No. It's on letterhead. I'm not seeing it right now.
It's behind the green one.
It's behind the green one? Okay.
Very way down.
Green.
Okay.
Letterhead.
Oh. So, yeah, just, and so his plan is to do meet with the custodians, do a training with what are going to be the requirements, the PPE they have to wear. That's all laid out with the CDC guidelines, so that's pretty much standard operating procedures of what we're going to be doing. I did tell you that we did order additional sinks, hand washing sinks. We ordered 4. That'll be placed around the district and common areas for students and staff. So just really working on trying to make sure we're keeping kids' hands cleaned and different things like that. So, all right. So we'll also approve sinking funds, the bids. I wanted to mention to you, we were contacted by our the electrical contractors. They have been working, you know, hooking up in by the auditorium there for the band room and things. They wanted to know if you wanted them to go ahead and hook up to the generator to the kitchen. They can do, and I put the quotes in here. There was a breakdown on that, but if we had to do that as a separate whole thing, would be a lot more expensive than if they're right there. So I didn't know. So we're looking at maybe $23,000 or something that we would be looking at to have them do that. So I don't.
That's in the dark blue one.
The dark blue ones? Oh yeah, thank you. Yep, dark blue, guys, thanks. So they broke it all down. But if we guys want to think about that and let me know, we could add that. I mean, we talked about it because that way the kitchen then, we could run the kitchen off the generator. And the generators run it, you know, for our disaster relief, we can feed people and all those things. Without that, I can't. This way I could run that kitchen and that heat and everything down there in the cafeteria, plus we could run this. So I don't know, it's all set up right there, we just have to hook it up. But think about that, that would
So
be
it'd be a total of $26,750 and the $19,000?
No,
No, okay.
it's either or.
Oh, it's either or, okay.
One is your bid, Kim.
Huh?
The one is the.
You can either do copper or aluminum.
Oh,
I would
see.
probably just do aluminum. But you're gonna wanna get sign off on this, because we don't want the state coming back around and, if you flip the page over, you see, you don't want the state coming back around and go, oh, you didn't get this signed off. So, I don't know, they talked to Joe, I said I would let you guys know.
When do we need to vote on this, Wednesday?
Wednesday, yeah. So think about it. It would be my recommendation. If they're there, I think we ought to hook it up.
And I think we just go with the aluminum.
I would do
I mean,
aluminum.
Because we're not using it all the time.
Right, this is just
Yeah.
for
Emergency.
emergency purposes, we don't need
Right.
to go crazy with copper.
But if we don't do it and then
Yeah.
something happens, for that money, it would be, I think, negligent for us not to. So,
I agree.
it's just my 2 cents, so. Okay, all right, any questions under operations? Okay, finance, we have the cash balances report, and I put in your packet Dean's transportation, return to school transportation operations. And I'm gonna tie this right now to the discussion on the 2 tiers of transportation. So when we did our work study back in June, looked at budget and what we're gonna need to do, Tamara said, hey, have we ever thought about doing tiered busing? So you run like the elementary kids and then you run the middle school and high school kids, 2 separate runs. And you wouldn't think this, but it saves quite a bit of money for us doing that. We're gonna go from 11 buses to 9 buses, so we're saving 2 right there.
Or
And
possibly 8, you said.
yeah,
right?
she's got it at 9 right now,
Okay.
just because we've got 2 runs that are really big,
Long.
and we don't want kids on an hour and a half. We're trying to keep it down.
So those 2 runs would run only once. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I don't know, I have to look at it.
Okay.
It's a little confusing on how that lays out,
Okay.
but we're gonna need, she felt like we were gonna need 9, unless transportation totally drops, well, then we maybe will need 8. We'll see what happens.
Okay.
So, but that saves us a good share of money. So we're looking at savings there, but number 1 is it spreads kids out on the bus. So we have social distancing. You're not running a bus with 77 kids on it. It's much more manageable. So you've got less kids on the bus. Dean is charging back to the district. It's gonna be probably about, I'm looking at, you can correct me, Tracy, it's about 25,000 in cleaning costs for the year that will have to happen. So they're doing like a microbial thing to each of the bus so that viruses do not stay. So that's a $300 upcharge. And then they have to clean after your morning run. So there's an additional cleaning, or after a CTC, they gotta clean. So there's some additional cleaning costs. But even with those additional costs, I feel we're still going to save quite a bit of money with this. So what was it about, was it 70,000 maybe?
So the runs was, around $95,000, going from 11 to
9?
thank you. And then by eliminating the extra trips, which would be the field trips, basically anything but athletics, that's about a $17,000 savings.
Because we're not doing any field trips this year, no extra trips.
But then if athletics.
Right,
doesn't
then
happen-
that, we haven't figured that
And then,
cost.
well, yeah, that's gonna be around $24,000 or $25,000, what we spend a year and
That's for the whole
would have
year.
spent this year in athletics.
If, depending what happens with athletics.
Mhm.
So by doing the elementary separate from middle school and high school, there's a significant savings, plus I believe it's a health and safety for our students not being crammed on a bus. So really the decision that's gonna have to be made is if, number 1, are we okay with doing that? Going to 9 runs, doing a staggered start and dismissal. So that means my first proposal was that we wanted to have our middle and high school kids picked up first. They would start at 7:30 and be done about 2:30, 2:35. And then then as soon as they drop those kids, they'd go back out again, get the elementary kids, and they'd start about 8:15 and run till about 3:40. So that was the discussion, that was the thought I had, and the first thought I had was, I felt that having elementary kids go second was a better option than going first. I did talk to a group of the teachers who I will tell you feel like that research indicates that it's much better to have middle and high school kids come in second and go later than elementary. So, and I will honestly, I've read probably 10 studies over the past few days about it. And the research does indicate that. I mean, I read a research out of University of Kentucky who disagreed with that, but you know, there's some pros and cons with any of that. My really number one priority was thinking about student safety, like not having those kids on the bus, elementary kids that early in the morning by themselves.
Now, why do you think that's unsafe? Just standing out
like
there
a
at
first
6 in the
grader
morning?
out there in Pioneer Township at 10 to 6 in the morning waiting for the bus in the dark.
Versus in the dark at 7:30 during the winter, because it's still dark. That, I'm just saying.
Yep, and I don't have any.
I know.
I don't have any good, other than thinking about what would be the response of my parents.
Right.
That's really
what
it.
kind of response have we gotten from, like, with our registration? What have we seen?
There's nothing's been out on our times because you guys have not approved it.
No, not that. I mean, do we have quite a few parents that are just gonna drive their kids this year? Are you seeing that?
Yes, we're seeing a lot of driving. Yep,
Okay.
a lot of driving. That's why we're also down to about 9 buses.
Right.
Right. So it's really,
How does the staff and the administrators feel about staggered start? I know it's a lot more work. Are people, I'd like to hear from you guys. I really would. I would like you to be honest. I haven't talked to anybody.
I'll speak.
Okay. What do you think, Tim?
I think that it's hard to remember that we're in a pandemic, that we're making emergency decisions for a potential $800,000 deficit, right, that we will need to make up. So a decision like this in that context that can potentially save $100,000, every school is making those decisions currently.
Right.
I can tell you right now, half the schools in the Highland Conference are not doing athletic busing.
Right.
Takes care of the distancing, you know what I mean? So every school is making these hard choices to where do you find those big banks of money.
Right.
And it's a bummer, right? Like we talked about today, this is a stopgap measure to try to prepare for that. And if we find that we don't need to prepare for that, then we could make a different decision potentially. But that's how I feel. We've known forever, truly, that it's better for kids to begin their learning school day really at 9 o'clock.
Right,
because
later.
They're out of the sleep cycle
I
and
agree.
they can bore you for hours, right? But schools are not set up for what's best for kids, unfortunately, because we are a machine a learning organization that serves 1,200 students around parent schedules, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, I share that. I would rather my kids out there waiting for buses during those hours than Tyler's kids, I feel, right? Like the ones that really are going to need busing, that aren't going to be able to drive their kids in, are not the kids that are around here.
That's
They're
true.
going to need it.
Right.
And
So you're
what
saying.
we can do to stack the deck in terms of safety is going to be a big deal.
I talked to Dean Transportation. I said, Connie, can you find out of all the districts around that you guys serve? She says, we do not. We always pick up middle school, high school first, elementary second.
Okay.
So, that's just can be very subjective. I'm not basing this on a whole lot of.
Right.
I think too, some of the thought process we had is in the mornings, right, there's more times there's coverage there for parents to be able to stay with their elementary student to get them on the bus.
And then coming home, if they were the first to get on the bus, they would still have that coverage, but that they're beating the middle schooler, high schooler home, that they have to potentially ride with, to get home and have that coverage of a guardian, someone there to help them. Then either our latchkey gets a lot bigger, and then we're potentially asking these parents to pay that have their students already riding a bus for transportation, or we're sending them home without anyone home for 40 minutes until the bus makes its next loop around. And so we're looking at all the wellness and safety pieces. I think that's why as an administrative team, we landed on that.
So as an administrative team, you guys like high school and middle school first, then elementary. That's what I'm hearing.
Yes.
Okay.
In this emergency.
I know
this could be a one-year deal.
Yeah, this state, the whole thing states.
And we may say this is a pilot and say, you know what, this didn't work. Next year, we do like it split up, and maybe we're gonna go with the other. I didn't take the time to try to survey parents right now because we had so many other issues we were trying to deal with.
Right.
Frankly, I just.
And that's totally understandable. I just wanted to hear from the staff what they thought. That's what I wanted.
So is it fair to say, second semester, if we realize that was not a good decision, that we would reevaluate and maybe flip it?
In 1 year?
No.
Oh, what'd you say it again?
Second semester.
Well, second semester. I'd only do it with the survey and overwhelmingly parents.
Right.
Yeah,
Right,
that's the only way I would
saying.
do it.
I'm saying if we came across that, and we did it in our second semester because we got enough pushback or enough input, that we would do whatever is necessary to help us make that decision, and then.
It would affect, because we're also dealing with CTC runs, timing. It may affect the class course schedules, because right now you can run a class before they go to CTC, right?
Oh.
So there's some other factors here with the scheduling and pieces. I don't know if I'd switch it I don't know if I say yes right now or not. I would say, I would want to get, okay, we're doing it this year, then do some focus groups, parents, what do you think, get input, and then say, because the other thing is how the runs would run. So if we've got those scheduled a certain way, and then you're flipping them, I don't know, there's a lot of pieces, you drove bus, there's,
I do.
a lot of pieces with that.
I was just anticipating that question coming up. And I just want to be prepared to address why we made our decision. And then would we think about it second time or second semester, and we would have a good rationale whether we have to wait a year or not.
Well, I think we can look at it and say if we would or would not try it at the semester. I think about messaging to parents and how this is gonna go out.
I think it'd be good to run it a year because parents are gonna be prepared for 6 months and then have to flip it halfway would be hard. Then start all over with their babysitters and different times.
Well, but I was just saying if we got a lot of pushback from parents, if this isn't working, then, would we be able to be that flexible to respond, or do we want to say, no, we're just waiting a year? I don't think you can answer that tonight.
I don't think I can.
No, I think it's just something that we review and see, there is any, there might not be.
So we will have to vote on that tonight because I really need to let our parents know so they can start preparing. So the last, because we're not gonna look at any handbooks tonight, so that we're gonna cover Wednesday because I don't have them done. It's really adding the COVID pieces to all the handbooks. So I don't have those to go over with you tonight, but Tracy's gonna quick share a couple things because we have, you'll find a PFM document here. And we have to, and this is in regards to the bond and our legacy funds. As you remember, when we raised all that money with the legacy funds, that money was earmarked to help buy down this bond while we levied the 1.5 mils. Now, this coming year is our last levy on that. So Tracy's gonna talk about this with you and what the options are. We have about 48,000 left in our legacy fund for the millage drop. Do you want my documents?
Yeah.
Here. Nope, it's fine.
So there's 3 options here, well, 4 options actually given to you. If you don't take any funds from the legacy account and transfer to your debt retirement account, that's gonna be the last page at the 3.88 mils is what we would have to levy. Then, looking at them backwards again, I had them, PFM calculate 3 different transfer amounts, 25,000, 30,000, and 40,000. So you can see the different total levies there. 3.85 mils is what we have to levy if we transfer 25,000. 3.82 mils if we transfer 30,000, and 3.8 mils if we transfer 40,000. So that's something that you're going to have to determine so that we can take action on that Wednesday, so that we have time to get that information out to the taxing authorities in time to actually collect it.
My recommendation would be use 40,000 to buy down as much as we can.
I agree.
To mitigate the 1.5.
Isn't that what we intended to do a year ago?
We need to.
I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. That's what those funds were for that the community gave us.
Yep.
We need to stick to that, so. Now that would leave us about 8,000 left. I think we just leave it. We'll throw it on that in the next year then, which isn't a lot, but we won't be carrying that 1.5 next year, so.
Because we can't just do the whole 48.
Well, we could.
We can take everything.
If you want to take everything, we can.
Do you think we should and just be done with it, and then it's one less thing to have to
That's fine.
readdress?
Well, but you're gonna have this legacy program's gonna.
It's an ongoing.
It's an ongoing thing.
Maybe we leave the 8,000 in there and,
Right.
and then once we
Have
get
like
through the
starting-
pandemic and stuff, we have that as a starting amount. Say, okay, we've got 8,000 left here, and then we can start building up
It's like
for.
a feeder, kind of?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's not a bad idea, actually.
And, you know, we still gotta come up with some sort of a marketing plan for our legacy gift program.
Right,
It's kind of died on the vine right now, but we
Right.
got some,
We got
once
other
we get
things.
things going.
right.
Pardon me?
I said we have other things we're worried about.
Right.
Yeah.
What's that?
The Alumni Association,
Oh, letter, yes, I know. Okay,
all tied together.
it is. All right, any questions under finance, Tamara?
Well, are we gonna address, do you wanna talk about this at all, about the purchase, or no?
Yes.
Okay. So I went back to our potential buyer and told him a couple things that I felt like we needed to address. One, because of the length of time it's gonna take this company to do all of their testing, I wanted some kind of assurance, because it's gonna be time that it's gonna be, even though we can take other offers, they would only be backup offers. And so I got them to agree to an initial deposit non-refundable program. So like the first earnest money deposit will be $12,500. And after the 120 days, which is the bulk of the testing they have to do to approve the site and get surveys and do board testing and all these things, 5,000 of that would actually be released to the school to be used, a non-refundable deposit. Then the remaining 7,500 would be released after 40 days more of testing, 45 I mean, so at 165 days. Of course, the whole amount would go down off the purchase price, and then the remainder would come due once we close. They're hoping the closing would happen sometime winterish. They really couldn't give me there's quite a bit of steps that need to be done, and this is really typical of this type of offer, commercial offer. So it isn't necessarily unusual timeline, but I do want everyone to know you don't get the money the day we accept this. This takes time because of all the things they have to do. So, and then hope the closing would occur on or before April 30th. They're really thinking it's gonna be before that, but I just wanna prepare you worst case scenario. Things are kind of backed up in the real estate world too with testing, and appraisals and all these things that happen to get to the closing table, it's affecting everyone, so with COVID.
So there's.
And they agreed to that.
Okay, so there's no sure, like, I'm not gonna know that, we're not gonna know then until really April, right, at the table?
Well, we would know, she really feels strongly that in that first 120 days, they're gonna know whether they run into some kind of, like, there was a gas station there in the 1930s that no one knows about, and there's some contamination under the ground. That's really what, it's those phase 1, 2, and 3 of the EPA doing, that's what takes so long.
Okay.
You have to assure that the site is free of contaminants and things like that, and that takes a while.
Okay.
Unfortunately, that's the offer we have in front of us. I know it's not as quick as we'd all like, but I will be honest, I'm very happy with the price we're getting and how quickly we actually got an offer. Commercial selling in Lake City's tough. I don't know if Craig has a comment on that.
The only comment I have
We'll
is
just be a part of the development committee, yeah.
That's not standard operating procedure.
Right. So.
Thank you, Tam.
Yep.
All right, so then under policy, we're just gonna wait, Rod, and I'll just bring everybody up to speed at the board meeting with that then, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so we just have some action items.
Do you want me to do anything tonight?
Yeah, just for you, so you can start.
Half your check's gonna go to Rod.
Yeah. Action items, number 1, new position, virtual and technology instructional coach.
With the addition of K-12 virtual school, it is necessary to have a technology coach for K-5 virtual instruction to support staff, student, and parents. The recommended action is that the board approve the new position of elementary virtual technology instructional coach for the 2021 school year under a teacher contract.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion?
I have one question, sorry. If we go back to normal next year, then this position, because we're not hiring a new person, this position would roll into back to a teacher, or if we realize that we need this permanently because the world is more technology, we would make that decision then?
Then, yes.
Okay.
This is only a one-year commitment.
1 year deal, but next year we might have a couple options to think about.
That's correct.
Fair. Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Purchase agreement.
The board has received an offer on the sale of 1.5 acres on the corner of M55 and Bacon Street in the amount of $175,000. The recommended action is that the board accept the offer as written for the sale of property on the corner of M55 and Bacon Street.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? Thank you. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Transportation tiered runs with staggered start times.
Following health recommendations, tiered transportation runs have been developed utilizing 9 bus routes, 2 runs each, one transporting middle school, high school, and elementary separately. Building times would be staggered, middle school and high school, 7:30 a.m. and 2:30 p.m. dismissal, and elementary, 8:15 and 3:40 dismissal. The recommended action is that the board approve the transportation tiered runs and staggered start time as presented.
I've got different times on my sheet. I have 7:35 and 2:35. Is that?
It should be 7:30.
Oh, okay.
It's 7:30 and 2:30.
Okay.
And 8:15 and 3:40, right, Tyler?
Yes. Okay.
340.
3:40. Okay. So moved. Oh, whoops. You didn't do an action. No, Rod didn't. Tom didn't read.
Oh.
Sorry.
No,
We do 2:30.
we need a.
Oh, it is 2:35?
2:35?
It is 2:35.
Okay. 7:30.
Consistent with moving it from what it is this year.
Okay.
Okay,
I need a motion.
so moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Number 4, Lake City Area Schools Return to School Plan.
As required under the Michigan Return to School Roadmap, administration has developed a return to school plan for parents and community members. The recommended action is that the board approve the Lake City Area Schools Return to School Plan for parents and community as presented.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Additional comments from the public? We're adjourned. Thank you.